It is time to get the action rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, hello, good evening, and welcome to Have the Race Gone. My name is DirtenDK, and I have been looking forward to take you through the fifth round of action here from the TSR Super Touring Championships from Lago Maggiore, the East layout, and of course the TSR Super Touring. Well, an interesting series. 380 brake horsepower, around 1100 kilograms, and semi-slick sports tires, as they are known in Gran Turismo. Let's go to the live pictures. We're following TSR Jimmy, the Scotsman, around the track here. No spaghetti bowl for him today, but a tight hairpin that leads him on to the start-finish straight as they come on to a new lap. Fastest so far in practice is the Stang of Ingrosso. And I think we need a Murray. But which one? This Murray. So as I said, we've really been looking forward to this round. And just to take you through the ups and downs of the Super Touring series. Well, we're running a Super Pole qualifying format and a bit of a special starting format, and that has to do with the fuel that the drivers are taking on themselves at the start of the race. So on lap 1, we'll have a formation lap to pit in on very low fuel, to then fill the tanks up to the desired level, and then to head off for yet another formation lap. Then form up on grid. We have the Squirtmobile with TSR Wake, by the way, the Hyundai. But then to form up for a standing start, and that's going to be called out on the lobby timer, and that's what you see now in the bottom left hand of the screen. So let's have a look at the driver's standings coming into this round. VLX Nova on 85 points, leading affairs in front of Schosse. That's a 9-point deficit for the German to make up. We have Wake sitting there in third place, 15 points down. So by no means out of it, the Belgian. And then Ingrosso in the Stang, another 5 points down. That's on 65, as we see TSR Stig interestingly on 59 points, but having done a race less than most of the field. Those of the drivers having done 4 races, of course, in with the best shot at this point in the championship. Stig's results have been impressive, to say the least. As we can see, he's won 2 races, as opposed to Nova and Schosse picking up wins is in the other 2. So it's still a close one. It's still got all to play for here. And having a look at the manufacturers' championships, at the manufacturers' standings, we have Lexus on points with average points. I guess that's average points picked up per race by now. So Lexus clearly doing best so far. We have BMW in second place, followed by Hyundai, Ford, and Toyota, and that's actually a bit of a surprise, I guess, that Toyota is there in 5th of the manufacturers, given that VLX Nova, who's leading the championship, is indeed driving a Toyota. So back to the live pictures we are. Hello, Wake. Hello, Welsh, as well. Nice to see you. I wish you a good race. Let's go over the grid. As mentioned, we have TSR Jimmy in this Carbahn car, and there is a bit of insider info on why these companies are sponsoring this exact automobile, but I'll leave that to you later. We'll get back to it. We have the Portugueser and Grosso for Netso Racing in the Stang. 2 Netso cars, one of them this Stang, and the other, I think, following pretty much behind right now. It very much is second place driver in the championship standings in his Lexus. It is Schosse, the German, very consistent, But indeed, of course, dealing with a little bit more weight. And that's exactly as I understood it was. Then that is average points per race so far. So that gets pulled down, of course, by low finishing cars, as you've perfectly actually made out in that comment. Wake, we've been over him. Oh, there's Swablu, otherwise known as ERT Ben, nearly loses the rear end of his 86. A very nice livery for Swablu. Piolo is here again. He's back in the Golf Stang. Beautiful car that pays a great deal of homage to a certain Ford historical race car that won Le Mans on multiple occasions. So certainly not a bad one, and not a bad time at all as well here for Piolo in practice. Jimmy having set the quickest time so far. That's a bit of a turnaround. We'll have to see how everything goes when we get the qualifying session underway. And that said, qualifying begins in 6 minutes from now, so the last breaths of practice still being drawn here, and still a chance for the drivers to just fine-tune those laps, but I think everyone will be going full hammer by now for that qualifying practice. And that you hear is me taking a sip of coffee that should really be sponsoring these broadcasts by now. Some kind of coffee. If anybody who has anything to do with any kind of coffee is watching or listening. Oh, there was a car in front. What the hell was that thing we're watching in the front end of the camera there? Here's Flickflock completes a lap. Flickflock and Addy, the two Dutchmen, in the two Hyundais, matching the liveries as well with well, they actually did race in matching liveries, but they don't anymore. So that's actually taken me and caught me out. I hadn't seen Addy's car yet. A bit of a pit stop practicing session here. And then aforementioned Welsh in his Lexus. Wake as well. And just... Hello, Martin, the danger car himself. Don't have the danger car on track yet. Oh, there it is. The truck of certain safety. Gotta love that one. Let's go for a certain safe ride. Oh, there is what looks like mating going on. I think this will be PG 18 quite quickly. We're gonna switch to another car. Oh, we just got the... Oh, hello, shots, and nice to have you along. As I tried to go away from that danger van, danger truck, humping poor Jimmy's Virgin BMW. I wanted to go away from it, didn't realize that it was Jimmy, so we just caught it from behind. That was like an X-rated flick, indeed. But hello, Shota, and it's, of course, very nice to have you along as well. Best of luck to you for the race. And to everyone else watching, a very warm welcome, a very good evening here as we are getting closer and closer to the start of proceedings. We also have TSR Stick, and we mentioned Stick when going over the championship standings, just as he disappears as quickly as he was here before as well. But anyway, interesting to see how Stick will do tonight, given that his pace has been on point for these races all the way through, just exiting the pits, throwing it a big slide. Decides to go the wrong way around. 2 minutes until we get qualifying underway. So if you have something that needs taking care of, we'll do it now. I guess the action is getting closer and closer to us. And given the layout here, we haven't really spoken about that at all yet. So just to touch on The east layout here on Maggiore, well, it's quite a bit of chaos going on here on track at the moment. But it is a real touring car track, I feel like, and that last hairpin coming onto the start-finish straight, it really adds for an extra overtaking opportunity. It's a much slower corner than the spaghetti barrel, and it's a tightening hairpin, so it needs patience, and it's not easy to get that exit right, but it's very important. And then coming into turns 1 and 2, of course, as we know here on Maggiore, that always makes for some very good overtaking opportunities. The thing is, though, there's also the west layout that connects down to the right here, and that sometimes opens up for easier overtaking at turn 2, given that turn 2 is then followed by a right-hander instead of a left-hander. So we're watching Engrosso on one of those last laps of practice, if not the last. I think we'll have qualifying underway in a matter of seconds by now, and did I mention that I'm sort of excited for this one? I really think it's going to be a good one indeed. Let's see, we have 12 cars, and that's of course with the danger truck, so 11 cars racing it seems. That'll be more than enough to give us some tight, handy racing here. And there it is, qualifying session getting underway. And of course, something that we changed during this season, excuse me, any Danes watching will know what a Rolf Sørensen moment is. I just had one of those. But we changed from using just a practice session, so to say, for the qualifying, and we changed to this new qualifying format, which is especially for me and I guess for the viewers as well, a lot handier. So you have this time remaining. It is a Super Pole format, so only one lap is allowed for the cars. Of course, more laps being driven will just end up being nullified if possible. Otherwise, the driver, I think, is certain to incur a penalty. But there is, of course, the advantage of having lap times set popping up in the chat box in the bottom left of the screen as well. So it's actually possible to have an overview of what's going on as the cars come across the line, because there is usually, for these Super Pole sessions with over 10 cars coming across the line within the space of a minute or so, this always makes for some frantic stuff. And I think Welsh and Jimmy would do wisely here to give each other some space. Of course, there could be an advantage being in some kind of tow from the driver in front. Swablu also slows right down to get the launch here. I think Welsh didn't get the best of exits. And we're expecting lap times around 1 minute 26.5. Hey Mew, Lane Macchiato. Oh, that sounds good. 80, nice to have you along, mate. I hope you're doing well. And Mew, the same goes to you. So we have the first couple of flyers onto their competitive flying laps here. Still following Jimmy around, the fastest guy in practice, so we're expecting his BMW to be at the pointy end of affairs. These Super Pole sessions, though, always a little bit difficult to get right, because, well, having only one shot in the end really makes it important for you to know the line and to walk that line well and to not cross it too much, at least, because it doesn't take much to screw up a hot lap, especially with this kind of relatively low mechanical grip settings. So I'm just gonna have a look at the stream. Does it look laggy? Looks okay. Mind you, I'm on my dinosaur of a PC that doesn't always cope too well with the stress on the CPU, especially of streaming. I think I could do a lot to upgrade this computer, but it's a 9-year-old motherboard with a 9-year-old CPU and a 7-year-old graphics card. So I think Dinosaur makes it well for it. And I'm just missing the times here, but TSR Jimmy on pole position in front of Piolo so far, stick in third. Just as I say that, Schuss crosses the line with a 1:27.3. That's good enough for third place, but it's close there in the midfield. Flickflock goes 8th fastest. I think he's had some kind of mistake there. 1:30.9. Still cars crossing over. And Grosso 1:27.3. That's enough for third best time, and that pushes down Stick into row 3 here. T5 coming into 6th place. So close to his destined position in the end, Eddie. Last one to cross the line with a 1:30.5 indeed. And with that, that's the entire field getting across the line. Let's just have a look at how that makes him start for the race. Here we have it. Oh, that was just me being a bit too quick on the bottom there. TSR Jimmy is mentioned on pole position in front of Piolo. And by a bit of a margin, 1/10 of a second. Another 10th down to Grosso in third. So it's pretty damn close between the top 5 all in all. A bit of a gap down to T5 in 6th place. Then Wake, Swablu, Welsh down in 9th. Already, of course, having mentioned that he's probably going to be a little bit of a slow boy. He's advertised his slowness tonight, perhaps not having the time to practice. But he's been fast in the other races, and you never know what happens, especially with this touring car action. Then Eddie and Flickflock, the bottom 2 places, I mean, a bit of trouble with the Hyundais, I think. Might just be small incidents there during the lap. A very nice qualifying lap set by TSR Jimmy. The car is sponsored by Carbon and Aston Workshop. Haley getting all Christmassy here. I was getting caught up in actually singing that inside my head, and I almost started singing it out loud for you, but I'm gonna spare you that one indeed. Although, here's some background knowledge on me, on Dirten. Actually used to have a career as a professional musician, you could say. At least some years ago, I had some years with quite a bit of touring, a lot of concerts, and a lot of fun stuff that way through. So I do know a bit of music, but it's of course something quite different singing Christmas songs on a stream than it is actually doing some stuff that you've rehearsed and written yourself and made yourself and all that stuff. Anyway, the race is about to get underway, and I should really get to talking about the race and not about myself. So of course it is a congratulations to Jimmy for his first pole position of the season, if I'm not completely mistaken. And of course we will be joined by the truck of absolute safety. But given the scratches and bumps on that car, I think it would be better to call it the danger truck in the end. And there was that quickest of glances that GT Sport gives at the end of qualifying for the... I mean, I don't know why it should be so quick, so short. But there it is, and here is another look at the grid order before the race gets underway. Mind you, of course, we will have a slow start to do a formation lap, dip into the pits, then fill up on fuel to the desired amount for the drivers, because, mind you, GT Sport doesn't allow for this in any way, otherwise you'll just be starting on a full tank, of course, or at least on exactly the same amount of fuel for the entire field. And this is something that the TSR lads has come up with a pretty clever solution to, I feel like, in the end, being able to actually select for yourselves how much fuel to run for the race. So with that said, Let's have a wang cam moment here for from the danger truck. Of course, brought to you by Toyota, the Toyota Tundra. Really sounds like something marketed solely for that place over there. Pointing westwards, by the way, of course you can't see that. I really need a webcam by now as well. I feel like it would really heighten the broadcast time for... Oh, not Anguish Murray. Time for another Murray, but we can't keep this Murray though because we're gonna need the timer. Let's go for Big Murray. But yeah, Merry Christmas everyone, though it's not really Christmas yet. It's the 5th of December, of course, the month of December being more or less about Christmas until we reach the 24th, and then it's a couple of days where everything is about New Year's Eve and that big ass party that everyone has. So I hope you have some good plans for that as well. I have plans that fit me perfectly. Those are super relaxed, chill plans in the countryside, not really doing anything but relaxing and chilling. That's going to be very nice for me, at least. A good view of the field we have here, and a nicely differentiated field, and also a close field in the end. I feel like, sorry. But anyway, it's nice to see that the cars are actually so close to each other, given that both, well, all of the cars have really shown that they can be competitive by now, and they're very different in the end, from the fuel strong, handling strong 86 to the top speed strong, or fast, you could say. I guess that's the word for it. Both that actually goes for pretty much the rest of the cars are more top-endy, but there's a big difference in fuel consumption as well, especially that hurts the BMW M4. So we have everybody out of the pit, and of course there's another thing worth mentioning that I haven't really touched upon yet for this race. And that is tires. I mentioned earlier that we're using sports tires, those semi-slicks, but that's not the entire story. The drivers will be allowed one set of sports soft tires, and the rest available will be mediums. So what we've seen a number of drivers do is to just stay on that single set of softs for the entire race, but it really does require a bit of tire management, and for some drivers, especially those using a pad, that level of well, tire management is hard. It's hard to get those small precise inputs. So a driver like Wake, we've seen more than once start on the mediums. He's on the softs here early days, but starting from 8th place, he'll have some making up to do. Hello Mario, nice to have you along, by the way. And a CRISPR's hibernation, that doesn't sound like a bad idea at all. I take it that you're in Europe, and especially the northern part of Europe this time of year. Any part of the northern hemisphere really basically gets quite dark, and it's quite like the day ends when the day starts when you check in at work, and it's dark when you get off. That's pretty much it. So that's always a bit of a bummer. Anyway, cars are now coming into lineup on the grid. We'll get that timer on so we can be noted. Or actually. Wouldn't it be kind of nice to not have it? So it's kind of like, it's more Murray when we get the cars running. Now I want to, oh, what's happening here? They've both shelled it. They've parked in the wrong spots, and that goes for several of the cars. Trying to get a good view of the field here. Seeing if we can catch the entire field somehow. Nope. And we still haven't gotten a time yet. I'm just gonna try and see how it works. 5:45, so we hear the refs, and I guess it's gonna be soon. It could be any moment now. And it's go, go, go! Round 5 of the TSR Super Touring Championship is underway, and it's a really good start from TSR Jimmy. Though Piolo sailing backwards there. It's stick on the inside of Grosso into turn 1. There's a bit of a nudge. Turn 2, though, the Portuguese are to the inside line. Could just go and fight back stick, and he does so, taking second place. That's a very, very good start from the Portuguese. Let's go to the track cam view here. Schass is taking the lead. And I've completely managed to miss that. The German with a flying start for Netso Racing. And that means that Grosso's now up into third place. I could have seen that on the standings. But really focusing on that in the moment. That was really a flying start. He made that jump so quickly. And as we jump to the WAN cam, he was nowhere to be seen here. Now Piolo trying to fight back at the loss of position from the start. He's fighting stick, but now on the inside coming up to the SS. T5 still in P6 with Wake having won a position. I think the same goes for Welsh. And then the question is, who's lost out? Well, that's Swablu, who's down in 9th in his 86 with a big slide on there. Coming out the SS and down towards that final hairpin. Let's see if any moves are made. I don't think Jimmy's close enough to Schasse here. 2/10 down. But Schasse aiming for the late apex, but carries a little bit too much speed through there. And I think Jimmy might be in with a shot here as they're too wide. Down towards turn 1 they come. But he doesn't really make the move materialize in the end. Let's have another look at the start here. And from the perspective of Schasse getting well away and then just diving on the outside. Getting so well through turn 1. That's gentleman driving as well from Jimmy to give plenty of space and not having any wrecks. Everybody getting off cleanly. That's certainly an important one now. 0.4 of a second separating these two, so it's still very much open. There's a bit of a gap then down to Grosso, and it's now Stang after Stang in 3rd and 4th as Piolo's gotten past Stick, and there's a big battle here with T5 and Wake going for it. And I think Wake is up into 6th place there as T5 does go a little bit wide. And that's in T5. That is actually turn 5 down there. Let's have another look at what happened for the Swede. As he's trying to defend. But there's no defending that move from Wake in that Squirt mobile, the Squirt Hyundai. And he almost loses it on the outside. Here more action as they're into that final corner with Stick now battling Wake, and Wake actually going up and through up into 5th place. That's a flying couple of laps from the Belgian. And we shall indeed have another look here. This is the wrong angle though. Here we are facing the right direction. And a nice little scent there. So Wake having moved up into 4th place. And already a second up on Stick. Then Swablu back up into 6th. And that is a big... Oh, Schasse! What has happened to Schasse? Already at this point, down in 7th position. Oh, there's a big slide. And there is quite substantial damage to that Lexus. He's hit something hard, and we've completely managed to miss it. They almost went into turn 5 in a big bunch there. Certainly, Schasse now really suffering as Welsh is powering up through the SS on the inside. No defending that as the Netso Lexus is sailing off that number 1 car. It's gonna have a hell of a tough time. Of course, with a big chance here tonight as Nova is not racing. Swablu disconnecting here early on as well. That's bad luck here as Flickflock has a big moment, but I think manages to keep it. And T5 is pitting in as well. Doesn't seem to be any real damage for T5 though. Or there is, but I couldn't see any. We heard the repairing going on, so there certainly must have been something. And Schosse is out back on the track as well, but in last place. As we're on to lap 6 now. And the heat is on here at the front of affairs as TSR Jimmy is now battling Piolo. And Piolo's moving up on the inside in the stang here for turn 5. Let's see Jimmy hang on to it from the outside. And they're scraping paints. Or trading paints, scraping doors. Wouldn't call that banging. And they're still side by side here into the S's. And that's going to be Jimmy keeping a hold of first place. We're going to go on board with Ingrosso to have a premium look. A premium view of the battle in front. Piolo is all glued to the back end of that BMW. He has a good setup, I think, running for the Mustang and able to take advantage of the speed of that thing. They're breaking into the hairpin. Jimmy very defensively. I'm sure Piolo's going to be aiming for the exit, but Jimmy gets a good one himself. And I'm not... Oh, that's not what I intended to do. I'm not sure he's going to be able to actually do anything about the Scotsman in front. Down into turn 1, it's Piolo holding on to the outside, gives the Italian the inside line here, and he's in the lead of his home race. Very good move from Piolo. And let's just have a quick second glance at that one. Again, gentlemanly behavior from the front runners here. Steering well clear of one another. But what poor luck for Schosse in the end, I have to say. I think up ahead T5 just came through on Addy for P8. But it's going to be a long fight back. Of course, the pit lane very short here at Maggiore, so those pit stops won't be too long. Oh, and Jimmy now. Oh, that doesn't look too good. Sails wide at turn 1. And that means Ingrosso moves straight up through up into second place. On for a second look here on board with the TSR Jimmy. Who just massively outbrakes himself. But somehow manages not to make contact with the wall there, and that's gonna... It's gonna aid him for sure for the rest of this race, not binning it there completely. But losing 2 positions, the Scotsman, nevertheless. And that's Wake being very close to his bumper, and actually that might have been contact. Nope. Just I think the car looks a little scruffed around the front end. So Mustang 1, Mustang 2, then Jimmy, Wake, Stick, and Welsh. And the regulars at the top of affairs seem to be a little off pace here today. And that could be a big gain for TSR Wake. Only a couple of seconds down. There's a big gap from Stick. 5, almost 6 seconds at this point. Worth mentioning, of course, Stick here on the mediums, early days. Welsh, I think, could be the same for him. No, he's on the softs. And that means that Stick has quite some good pace, actually, in the car at this current time. And I think Welsh, the only one to start on the soft tires. There's a close fight for P7. And I wonder who's dipped back into P10. Then that's Addy. Must have had some kind of problem being 12 seconds down on Schosse. And at the same time, Piolo is pulling away from Ingrosso and Jimmy in second and third place. The Italian seems to be on a very good pace here early days. And look who's appearing behind these two. That is TSR Wake. Oh, the Wake getting... perhaps feeling that we're on board with him for a moment there. Got all loose and jumpy into the final corner. As he was getting close to Jimmy, and Grosso just put himself out of the slipstream as well, but they are battling up ahead. And that M4 is... I think he'd love to try and do something, but Grosso placing himself all the right places so far, as we are on lap 10 of 37 to be done here. So a bit over quarter of the way through by now. Chasse is up into 8th place. It is now caught up to T5 as well. Less than a second between the two. So the return of Chasse is still happening. Very much so indeed. Look at this now. Welsh trying to take advantage of the soft tires. Right behind TSR Stick. But still just following Stick around more or less. That's going to be costing time for Welsh using the softs at this part of the race. It'll be interesting to see how early Stick wants to jump in for a fresh set of tires. And another thing that'll be interesting for the M4 is how much fuel will he be able to save as well, because having driven that car myself for a couple of races, for a couple of endurance races, should I say, it's certainly, it's a thirsty one, that's for sure. So, yeah, excuse me for another Rolfie moment there. So we're still following this battle for 5th place. There's still also a battle for 2nd, but TSR Jimmy is not really able to make huge gains, and Grosso seems to be on a very good pace here. Generally, the Stang seems to be on a very good pace here, and Wake is falling a little bit behind as well. So, even though it will be a good point tally for him to finish 4th tonight as well, I'm sure he'd be hoping for better things in the end. But look at this, Jimmy closing in yet again on Grosso, trying to get close enough to actually make something happen. But they're 5 seconds down on Piolo, who really seems to be running away at the moment out in front. Got some very good pace going. And here as well, still behind on Stick, and still... I think he got a little close there on the braking in turn 1. And just had to keep on going in a straight line a little bit longer, not to hit the car in front. They are close. And we could see some kind of move happening here in turn 5, though I think he's just a bit away too far back. And it would actually require Stick to run wide or make a mistake. Welsh is carrying some damage, so that could be the explanation why he's suffering a little bit on pace. It's not been from any contact with Stick. I don't think anyone is running no stops here, Mew, but they're gonna be... But that's because of the fuel, tires and fuel times 4 for all these races. There hasn't been mingled with any, there hasn't been any fiddling, I wanted to say, with the tire settings or fuel settings. So we will be seeing pit stops, that's for sure. But we've been seeing drivers double stinting the tires in order to stay on those softs. Mind you, times 4 is not that hefty for the sports tires in the end. So it's possible to keep them alive for that type of duration. Now, so we're on board with Chasse here, 8th place, and this is a huge train now forming up behind TSR Stick. I think Welsh will have to find a way through, otherwise he's really falling into the clutches of T5 Black, who's also at the same time under pressure here from Chasse, who looks to be wanting to send it into turn 5. And what a place to do it to T5 himself. T5 holding on the outside, and they're still side by side up through the S's, or up into the S's. Chasse up with the... Oh, no one's bad, Mew. It's no one's bad. I might have said no stopping as well. I mean, I say all sorts of crap on these streams. So, oh yeah. Chasse trying to force his way on the inside here. Welsh got through on Stick before. That should be worth having a look at, but just outside of our replay range. That must have been up through the S's then, but finally Welsh got that move done. But they are a long way down on the runners out in front here, and Piolo with a 5.7 second advantage down to Jimmy. Wake on a little bit of an island, but losing time to the drivers ahead. And then still Chasse and T5 really going for it. No stopping. No stopping. So T5 now getting passed by Chasse, and that means the German is up into 7th place, and still many points to salvage, it seems. So if Chasse can get up into 5th place, that lead over Wake. Let's have a look at the driver standings to just see how that is actually, because Wake only 5 points behind Chasse. Piolo and Jimmy is quite a bit of way down in the overall battle, I think, and Grosso could be the one who's really set to gain from this one as well. And with that, I think T5 is making a move on Stick. Would be, I think, judging from the pace of those mediums at the moment, would do wisely to get onto the softs as quickly as possible. Of course, he could be having his doubts whether the tires would be able to last until the end of the race. That's like the DTM multicam streaming Mew. Only a little bit less sophisticated. But I do that myself too a lot, double streaming like that, or hopping back and forth between 2 tabs of streams and stuff. I totally know that feeling. So, but it gets a little bit confusing if you have the audio from 2 streams turned on at the same time. I'll give you that here. Chasse now up into 6th. He's made big inroads and he's really flying at the moment as he moves to the outside of Welsh. Now crosses back over to the inside and tries to outbrake him into the final corner. And you know what? I think he pulled that off perfectly indeed, Chasse. Beautiful move to take 5th from the German, or from Welsh. But he took 5th place indeed. And there's the crossover. Welsh, of course, not really allowed to switch back again to defend that inside. He played that perfectly in the end. Beautiful racing. So new status, new situation is that Schosse, who had a crash early on outside of our cameras and picked up some damage, was put down into final place, last place, and I think you could talk to Traels about that. Actually, Mew, I don't know if you've ever been told, I guess, but Traels and Stevie were teammates in the NES a couple of seasons ago and ran extremely well together in the Aston Martin, as you could probably imagine. As you know, Traels is a fast boy. As you probably know as well, Stevie is a hell of a fast boy as well. And Stevie actually told me that he's also looking at getting into iRacing at some point, and we would, of course, be glad, be honored, and be just happy and glad to. He's a nice lad, and to have him racing with us at some point if the opportunity arises. So Schosse, oh what? Piolo, that must have been a pit stop. Yes, an outlap it is. Mediums it is, and Piolo, oh, is now, was low on fuel, and perhaps that's the explanation on, oh, he's building the PC this weekend. Oh, that's, that's spicy. Oh, that's a bit of a long shot there from Piolo, who's just about holding on to 4th place with Schosse on the rear end. Now Schosse would perhaps have to... Oh, and just the German catching a bit of dirt on the outside there. We'll have another look. Building his PC this weekend. I just stopped at that or what? Something happened at the stream. I'm trying not to get too caught up in other stuff as well. Getting overloaded. Almost let the replay duration run out as well, as we had another look at Schosse's near accident there. Piolo keeping to the left, maybe to keep Schosse out the slipstream. Bit of a cheeky one. And indeed, that those times racing in the NES when GT Sport was all that we really had to race on and all that we had really tried. Some good stuff indeed. You're now T5, right back on track, right back on the bumper of Schosse as well. The two Lexuses are... of course, both on the softs still, and thus should be a bit of an advantage compared to Piolo. Here's Wake, still 3rd, and having lost some time to those other guys in front. And would you see? Would you look at it? Jimmy's in front of and Grosso as well now. So those two having traded places, and us very much not catching it. That's a bit of a shame. Still very close, just half a second apart. Well, thanks, Mew. I appreciate that. I'm still getting used to using the PC, which it isn't too different. Other than there's just a little bit more going on and a little bit more. It's like a two-hand job sometimes when I have to. Yeah, it's fine. I'm working on it, and it's so much more fun as well. I really like being able to do this and show you the rules for the championship and jump right on to the team standings or the manufacturer standings and then the driver's points. And for the upcoming IGTL events here on December 14th and 15th, yes, that's happening. We're gonna be having a 6-hour IGTL stint race. That's 4 1.5-hour stints. It's gonna be a massive one indeed. And I'm really looking forward to that one. We're going into a big month of actually streaming here. We've got 3 major events here on Half the Race Gone this December. Here's we're back with the battle for 4th place, but just to go through what those 3 major events are. First off, we got this IGTL weekend coming up on the 14th and 15th with the aforementioned 6-hour race. Then we have the 24 hours for Anna on December 21st, 22nd, and that's a 24-hour multi-race what's that type of thing called? Charity event. It's not my maternal language, goddammit! It's a charity event, and it's gonna be a big one. It's gonna be featuring some of the top GT Sport drivers in the world, just like the IGTL, by the way, and with races I think that are transferred from one to another. I'm not quite sure actually how it worked out. I didn't read up on everything of it yet, but we're putting together a team of commentators, and we're going to be aiming to be with you for the entirety of the 24 hours. So there's going to be a big job for us to do here as Chasse yet again having looks left and right of Piolo, trying to unsettle the Italian into turn 5, and getting the run out of here might be possible for Chasse. Indeed gets a very good run, but he's on the outside up towards the S's. And I think Piolo, if he just holds position, might be able to cover this one off, but Chasse is insisting on it on the outside. There is brilliant racing from the German up into 4th place, and T5 is right there to pick up the scraps and take his destined place from the Italian as well. Let's have another look. Maybe that's actually a bad time, because I think T5 might be pulling off the move here into the final corner as Piolo goes very defensive. Might be compromising his exit. I'm not quite sure. And of course here Jimmy now is in the pits. And he's at some kind of rubbing as well with someone. And he's at the pits now on the mediums in P7. That's quite a bit of weight down actually, of course, with the fueling as well. Expect a bit of time to be spent doing that. Piolo never got past. Let's have another look at Chasse's overtake from before. Setting it up so well through turn 5. Piolo, of course, going a little bit wide as well, but look, he's just right there on the inside and brakes very late. Trail brakes on the outside, keeps the speed, keeps the momentum, and makes the pass stick. That is very nice driving yet again. Fantastic move indeed, and Chasse has been pulling him off all day to put himself back up into race winning contention actually, because having been in the pits early on, you'd expect the German that he is to be on somewhat of a skewed strategy, and I don't know how that's going to be working out for him for the rest of the race, but he's certainly not too far back at all. Here is Grosso pits in on the very last drops of fuel that you could possibly fit into that Mustang, and the same goes for Wake. They're on very equal fuel consumption. Or they had a bit of... oh, and just as I say that, Chasse is coming in as well now. So it's not all perfect for the German, and he will be having more overtaking to do. And that's put Piolo right back in the lead, with the company from T5 very much a reality. And Grosso in 3rd now, Jimmy in 4th. So a bit of a shake-up of the running order right through here. And now just to finish up on our December, which is indeed a great December, if you like what we do here on Half the Race Gone. But anyway, that last thing is actually the biggest one of them all, as we will be taking part in a VLN winter race. Oh, someone's off there. I think that's one of the Dutchmen in the Hyundai. That's oh, that's Eddie. Oh, and Eddie's lost it. But a 24-hour VLN winter event, of course. If not from the VLN Gesamtstrecke, as it's called in German, of the Nürburgring. Well, where else. So that's gonna be one hell of a race for us, and I think for the viewers as well. That's a very nice battle though through the final corner. They are absolutely side by side, and T5 Black gets the run on the outside, now squeezes ahead. Piolo is trying for the comeback. Oh, he's there on the inside. He's squeezing in yet again, and he's making a very nice return. But I think it's still gonna be favoring T5 on the softer tires. Of course, all this battling is gonna be holding up Piolo somewhat. Let's have another look at that. Very nice long battle indeed here at T5 on the outside. As you can see, braking late. There's a bit of a tap. There's a bit of an extra tap. He's just helping the car turn in. That's touring car racing when it's best, or at its best. And then coming into turn one, because we're gonna stay with it just to check out this move as well. Even more nudging. But it's never too much, is it? In this battle at least. Doesn't really seem to offset any of the cars or anything, so all good. Just to close off that Nürburgring 24-hour race that we'll be doing in iRacing, we're going to be racing the Porsche 911 Cup in what is, of course, a multi-class race. That itself presents a big challenge, and that is happening on December 28th and 29th here, as Piolo is yet again sending it. And that was on the inside into turn one. But there was no way to really get past on T5, who's still holding on to the lead. Let's see T5 Black on pretty low fuel on worn softs. So I don't know if there's a big pace advantage really in those tires anymore. I think it's pretty even by now to Piolo's car. But of course, Piolo having had the final pit stop by now. Here is Grosso fending off Jimmy for third place. Wake is now in fifth. Schuss is up into sixth place and is still trying for a return to glory, you can say, after that early incident. VLN loop is almost the full Nords. It is the short loop of the GP circuit, and then coming on to do the, of course, the full Nordschleife loop after that. So it's slightly shorter, but nothing really noteworthy. So it's having that sharp right-hander after the stadium section instead of going into the pretty slow to the mid-speed left-hander and then the right-hander. I don't know the corner names actually on the GP circuit, and then coming out. You don't do the hairpin and all that other stuff. You had, but it kind of a weird because the track falls quite a lot through that connection. And it's actually quite a difficult corner in itself. It really offsets the car, and it's quite easy to lose it on exit. Saying that, the GP circuit always feels like a breeze when you're doing the 24-hour layout or any kind of combined layout of the Nords. Now 13 laps are remaining. We still have T5 Black leading the race now by 1.1 second. But it is given that the Swedish survivor, is looking at one more pit stop. It will be a relatively short one compared to the first stop of T5, but I can't see him making the end of the race with the fuel that's in the car now. I just don't think that's a possibility at all. And that's going to leave Piolo in a very good position. 4.5 seconds, of course, clear of the other Stang. The Mustangs doing very well today, it has to be said, here of Grosso, who still got the TSR Jimmy for close company. 0.5 of a second behind, which is as they came out the pits for the last time. And Wake behind these two, that's a 4.8 second gap. Wake still sort of on an island, still sort of it's not Robinson Crusoe that would mean much bigger distances in both directions. That's something you usually see in endurance racing, though, when you have 3 laps to the car in front and you have 4 laps to the car behind, and there just really isn't any on-lap battling going on. We're just waiting for one of those cars ahead to crash. But it's actually still pretty close, as Wake is, I would say that, but he's only 11 seconds down on the race leader. Then Chasse in 6th place. Oh, you're very much excused, Mew. I think us Danes, being the northern neighbors of the Germans, I think we're somewhat exposed to the German language, at least somewhat more than as the Brits. I think. I think, for instance, I think. I don't know if you have German education in school. I don't expect you to have German education in school. And I'm just thinking that it would probably be met with skepticism at best to have British kids learn German, given the recent history of the world. Here, that pit stop, that aforementioned pit stop from T5 is now happening, and as I thought, it's going to be fuel only, so a relatively short stop from T5, and we will see where the Swede is able to rejoin, but I think it'll be 6th place by now. Oh no, that's actually P5 for T5, the destined position assist, but it's not going to be for long, I call it, because he has Chasse in that number 1 Lexus of Netzo Racing right on his tail. 10.4 seconds from these two down to TSR Stick in 7th place here. So Stick hasn't been able to transfer through his pace from the last couple of rounds to... Oh, you do actually? Okay, so I just... I guess we are living in the 21st century by now. Of course, we're having German education in British schools. But here's a good battle coming up for us. I think for 5th place, important points it is for Chasse in the championship battle against Engrosso and Wake. They're spread out enough by now to make that battle very, very close. Coming into the last 2 rounds, mind you, 7 rounds of TSR Super Touring altogether, and 2 more rounds to do after this one, being the 5th. So it's coming to the pointy end. It's still very close, and good things are that it's only gonna be closer after this round. So that's gonna make for some exciting racing over the last 2 weeks of this championship here, over the last couple of weeks of 2019. So it's still Piolo, and now he's up by 6.2 seconds, so extending that gap, and by quite a bit actually, doing well to make the best of the squabbling that's going on behind. And look at this now, Wake is beginning to absolutely suffer on pace. I think those tires are beginning to be pretty worn, because T5 and Chasse are really, really closing in on the Belgian by now. He had good pace early days, but seems to be throwing away time at an ever-increasing rate here as we're closing in on the final 10 laps of racing. That's the 10 laps left, Murray, I guess. Or excited Murray, or sunny Murray. I don't know, it's not that sunny. It's actually pretty dark outside, to be honest. Just so I think that was Chasse in the background. Still just onto the tail of T5. I thought he would be able to make something materialize a little faster than this, so good stuff on T5. And perhaps that destined position isn't that easy to take away from the Swede in the end. That's a long-standing joke, by the way. By now, that goes all the way back to the M3 World Tour Championships that that I won. That was my 6 weeks of fame, racing-wise, that's for sure. So look at this Piolo with a very good advantage by now. It's time to have some onboard action here as we go to the wang cam of the Portugueser and Grosso. And away from it as well as we join the Carbon M4 of TSR Jimmy through the S's. I think this looks like a good opportunity for Jimmy as they come up towards the final hairpin. He's very close to that rear end. He's well in the toe. He does have the sling, and now it's all up to the late braking. Can he pull it off into the final corner? He does send it up. They do manage not to touch and actually not to really impede each other too much. And now they're side by side up towards turn 1, and it's a long stretch. Who can stretch the legs the longest? Seems to be the Stang indeed. We know it's good on top speed. It's not that the M4 isn't fast as well, but the Stang I think has the acceleration more so. The 7-gear BMW known for being a rocket when the straights get long enough. Oh, might this be the move though? Nope. And that means that, oh, there's a bit of a flash from Jimmy. Perhaps he felt like he got cut off by Grosso in that situation. But it's a bit of a send here as well. Of course, he is sort of entitled to do it. And Grosso only halfway covers off the inside and still allows for Jimmy to actually make the move. But of course, Grosso in the end also wins out here. The fact that he's able to take the wider line and then, of course, carry the speed on the outside of the corner. Now, yet again, Jimmy is trying to launch himself close underneath the bumper of that Mustang. It's 3/10 here. I think he's just that bit too far down to actually be able to do anything. Oh, Piolo is pitting in. Piolo was pitting in. I did not see that one coming, and I'm not sure it's the best tactic for him to do. That's both tires and fuel, and with only 7 laps of racing left, that's going to throw the Italian a long way down the order, and it's going to take for everyone else to pit, basically, for him to be able to really do anything back on it. Did he... I mean, that's a second set of softs going on. Was that a mistake? I mean, is that... Did he race on the mediums all the way through until now? Because if so, that's really impressive. I'm not quite sure. I didn't notice. I think I checked. I think I saw him on the softs. Now, if that is a second set of softs, not only will he be down the order by now, but he will also be facing a time penalty post-race for using 2 sets of softs. So that'll be interesting to see. He's out right behind Chasse. Chasse is now falling back on T5, who, by the way, is getting very close to Wake here. That is the battle for 3rd place. Jimmy is lost out. Something has happened to TSR Jimmy. I think he's had some kind of... it could have been a little bit of an off track or just a small mistake, but he's 1.7 seconds off. Look at this now, as I was calling Chasse, to be in a good position to grab that 5th place from T5. That's, of course, turned into 4th place as Piolo went into the pits. But... look at this now, T5 actually battling Wake for 3rd place, so pretty exciting stuff here towards the very end of the race. There's 2 wide runners in Chasse and Piolo further down. And the question is, will Jimmy be able to close that 1.7 gap up to Grosso here over the final bits of the race, and will Wake be able to keep T5 behind him? I think the Swedish survivor has been doing more than just surviving here today. It's been a very good race, given that he was also early in the pits for a stop there. That could have been the strategy though for T5, and it seems it's been working pretty well for him, as he's in a very good position now to try and grab a podium place, to take that podium place away from Wake in front. We go back to T5 away from the wang cam. Clearly with a faster car at this point, but not really able to make the most of it anyways. And this is where you line it up through the S's. Oh, and he's just carrying a bit too much speed into there, and that's lost him a bit of time, and it's lost him that vital impetus that could have gotten him the run on Wake into that final hairpin. Wake still just covering off the look, and that's gonna be even less important in the end, because look at that, the move is made from T5, and Piolo almost thought that he should have a bite of the piece of the pie as well, you could say here. Wake trying to have a run back at T5, who's now trying to squeeze the Belgian on the inside, and they're gonna make it 3 wide also into turn 1. Big action here as Piolo's now on the inside for turn 2. That's absolutely incredible. And they have made a bit of contact, and Wake has run wide, and Piolo has moved into 3rd place. And I've rarely seen anything like that. Did they make contact though? Not quite sure. Yeah, he did get a big nudge from Piolo as he moves up in through on the inside there. So, and there's heavy flashing going on from T5, who is not happy about that. For one moment, it seems not happy whatsoever. Now battling Wake for 4th place. And Shas is right there to make gains from all this as well. It's all picking up here at the end of affairs. And it's not that we haven't had action. That stuff was just absolutely insane. And quite a bit of nudging going on between those 3 cars in that situation. Indeed, now Piolo showing that he has the pace over the competitors here. And jumping up into 3rd, that's a nice one, of course, on that set of softs. Now, if Piolo is facing a penalty for using 2 sets of softs, which I'm not sure, by the way, it should be said, I'm not sure at all. I'm just saying, if he's going to be facing a penalty, squeezing in on that way is a little bit stupid, but he might not realize himself. So, I'm going to leave him the benefit of doubt for now. T5 still holding on to P4 as Wake is now defending from Chasse. That's going to be an important one, because this is championship points they're battling for, as Wake defends something that actually isn't sent, and that costs time in the end. Look at this, Stick has been able to catch up to the rest of the gang as well, and might just be able to pick off a few positions here over the last couple of laps. Wake running a little bit wide and seeming to plow through turn 5 there. That's allowed Chasse to get very close into the S's. Now we'll see if the German is actually able to line anything up coming out of here. Just 3 more laps remaining. Someone is in the pits. I think that could be Addy as well. Wake, 0.3 of a second. I think he has the gap on Chasse at this moment. Look at the pace of TSR Stick at the moment. He's absolutely flying. And he closed the gap up to the 2 cars in front here in absolutely no time. 3 laps left. Let's just have a look here in Grosso. It's a 2.5 second lead now, down to TSR Jimmy. So he's been extending it all the way through this final stint, and I don't think there's any way back for Jimmy now. As a matter of fact, Piolo has flown into the gap in front. Wake very much with the Becky 18 livery, but actually, CJ, it's an American soda brand. And Addy, I think, confirming for us that Piolo is on a 2nd set of softs, and that means that Piolo is going to be facing a post-race penalty, and all this battling in the end is going to matter all the less, I think, for him, as I think 20 seconds, that's going to put him way down the order into 8th place, I think, by now. And it's a little silly, I think, to put it mildly. But let that be it. Piolo now sitting 2nd, but it's a bit of a shame because the Italians had such great pace. I'm not sure, CJ. I was told, I didn't look it up. I could actually just look it up. Squirt is a caffeine-free, grapefruit-flavored carbonated soft drink created in 1938 in Phoenix, Arizona, according to Wikipedia, manufactured by Dr. Pepper. The more you know. So I'm glad whoever told me that told me the truth. I appreciate that. Well, what do I know, CJ? Someone could have fed me a bunch of bullshit and played my ass like that. So yeah, indeed, Eddie, that is what Piolo has been doing tire-wise. That's what I called out as well, or what I thought it would be here, as Schuss is now defending from Stick. Wake is in 7th place. How did that happen? So much of a drop for TSR Wake. I think those softs are too dead. That was a big fight, and it's still going on between these three. That might be a bit of a touch here, and I think that's a big touch indeed between the three into the final corner on the penultimate lap. And I'll try to keep my voice down, not to piss off my neighbors too much. But that was certainly, they got squirmy already there. I think Wake with a bit of a squirm. He makes a little bit of contact with Stick. They all kind of outbreak themselves. And Schuss tries just to keep a cool head. I think in the midst of all that, he keeps that position in the end. Now it's still going on, and it's still close, and they're still nudging and bumping each other for that 5th place. And at the end of this, I think it's still Schuss keeping a hold of it. But it is so close indeed. Stick with the fastest car of these lads here, I think I can assure you, as they go through turn 4. Stick got pushed wide, and Wake was there to take advantage of it. Have another look at it here. There, a little bit of contact. It was slightly naughty, I think, from Schuss, and now Stick powering through on the outside of turn 5. Flashing his light in the process. Schuss is gonna be trying to get it back, but he got a big bump there from Stick's BMW, and this is all turning a little bit sour, I think. And into a regular old wreckfest, as TSR Stick is sent into the barriers on the final lap indeed. And Piolo managed to overtake Ingrosso with all this, but knowing that Piolo is going to be facing a penalty, I think we can safely say that the victory is going to go to the Portuguesa Ingrosso in this thing. I think we can safely say as well that Jimmy will be finishing 2nd. We will have T5 on the podium as well in 3rd. Shasha, I think, will be 4th. Wake 5th, but that will be needing a second opinion. I think in the end that was a lot of contact in the end. Look at that battle. That went all the way to the line as well, though. Incredible scenes. As Shasa pulls off for Wake. I don't know what happened there, but he's ahead at the end. That might have been old pictures. Flick Flock 8th and Eddie 9th in the end. But I think no doubt that Stick will be fuming after that last lap incident. And we'll be seeing whether Piolo will be keeping that trophy or not. Now let's go to the race results yet again, just for a short, quick look at it. I will be hopping into the post-race interviews channel on our Discord, and any drivers that would like to have a talk are of course welcome, and I'll just make them aware of that in the lobby as well. So, having finished riding, that was indeed a very, very spicy finale. And a turn of fortunes, that's mildly put. That was very, very unfortunate for TSR Stick.
Oh, hello. I am not. It should be. I don't see why not. Oh, hello. I am not. I'm using the iPad, so don't know. Well, the crash with Chaussee, I don't know, lag. I've no idea. I didn't hit him on my screen, so he just kind of flew off into the distance. And then a couple of little run-ins with Ingrosso where I just outbraked myself completely. Thankfully, we ended up with no damage, or at least I ended up with no damage. And then after the last hit, I don't know, I lost composure and went off the track again at turn 2. And after that, I thought I'll just sit back, hold my position, and then bloody Piolo came out of nowhere. But it turns out he was on his second set of soft tyres. So I just sat back and just let that happen. I wasn't quick enough to keep up. I had to fuel save as well. So, yeah. Oh, honestly, I hate it. Yeah. Yeah, it came up saying I had 10 laps left, and then next thing I know I've got 6, and I thought, what is going on here? I'd done nothing different. It's all over the place. I don't know.
Turns out I had my mic muted, so we just had only you and not me. That's a new one.
Cool.
Impressive indeed. But Jimmy, thanks for joining us here post-race. Congratulations on a very nice result. What I take will be second place in the end, and
yes,
a very good race in the end.
Thank you.
It was,
It was some nice close driving, I think.
It was
Grosso.
a lot of action throughout the field. There was a lot of action with you taking part, but there was 4 times as much action with taking everything else into consideration as well. And then we had let's say a controversial moment on the penultimate lap that I think will be looked at if I know these race stewards well enough. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to say about that. I think with this, I will be calling it a day. Thanks for joining us, Jimmy, and talk to you soon, mate. I'll be hopping off here. Boom. And with that, well, I'll be rounding off the stream as well. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight to Have the Race Gone. Of course, my name is DirtenDK. It has been my utmost of pleasures bringing this race to you. So thanks for tuning in. If you like what we do here on the channel, if you like the race, the broadcast, or if you dislike it, well, feel free to dislike it. But if you like it, please give us a like on the video. And if you want to see more, then hit that subscribe button and stay in touch and in tune with what we do here on Have the Race Gone. With that said, we'll be returning to you in the near future with more of that good stuff. So until then, take care.